Have you ever thought, who am I? I mean, this has been an age-old question among all human beings, but it ties in with what I want to share with you today, which is how to have better self-awareness. And whenever we're thinking about self, we're almost always connecting it to the sense of I amness, right? Who am I? That question begs to explore, who is this that I'm speaking of as who I am? So, a great seeker, sage, and guru of self-inquiry, his name is Ramana Maharishi. He said that let come what comes, let go what goes, and see what remains. And that is, who am I? Right? That is a quote that he has been well known for because he wrote a book on who am I. And basically his style of yoga has been known as Jnana Yoga, which is all about self-inquiry and the knowledge of self. So that sort of yoga is really dealing with the knowledge of self, and I felt this was necessary to go into because awareness is always dependent on knowledge. And here at Seva Academy, I like to introduce whoever comes my way to this concept of having better self-awareness, and that knowledge of self really empowers an individual in making the right decisions for themselves. So a story that comes to my mind is back when I was exploring India as a tourist, even though I've come from there. There was a month that I spent at the Ramana Ashram, and I was surrounded by seekers of this knowledge. And when we're talking about knowledge of self, we're not really looking at reading books. We're really looking at knowing ourselves, this body, the sense of identification, and all sorts of knowledge that you cannot get if you're surrounded by distractions. So I spent some time there among people that were like that. And, we got to know that after all is said and done, what really matters is, are you okay to be with yourself as you are? Since I was not going to take up a brahmacharya's life, or say a brahmacharini's life, which is, kind of like a nun or a monk, I was going to come back to my life in Australia, and I was going to, figure out what I was going to do with my life. At that time, my sense of self was really based on my history. And what remained after everything was disconnected from me was myself. I was there spending time all alone, although surrounded by like-minded people. Really, it was a chance for me to get to know myself, who I showed up as, what did I see about myself when I was in my own company, and really just, learning to follow the instructions of Jnana Yoga to inquire what remains, what is the actual me that remains. So self-awareness in the Eastern philosophy is really looking at helping us, the aspirants, see that everything that is in this world manifest is very temporary. It's really impossible to conclude that that is who we are, So similarly, the Western system talks about raising consciousness or self-consciousness to see ourselves clearly. So this is why I feel it's a really fundamental skill to have this as in your tool bag, to raise and have self-awareness from wherever you are. A lot of people have shared they love having self-awareness, but one of the things that they don't like about it is that somehow they end up, seeing all the difference between themselves and others. And this has caused many points of conflict, points of disagreements, and also they feel that, this journey of self-awareness could make more trouble than ease. So this is something that I want to dispel today, which is, self-awareness, the benefits are more than you can count on one hand. And self-awareness is not to actually create any conflict. In fact, we want to have self-awareness to avoid conflict, to actually not have that sort of conflict with the external world, because we understand ourselves so much. So some of the benefits, if you're wondering, if you're new to the realm of self-awareness, some of the benefits are improved relationships, self-management. The whole world of leadership cultivation and development is talking about self-awareness. And while the Eastern and Western methods are a little bit different and frameworks are a little bit different, they do interact with each other very, very closely, because ultimately it is to get the person closest to themselves about having self-knowledge. Isn't it easier when you know your values, when you know what you like and dislike? Isn't life that much easier? Because what is the other side of it? When you don't know what you don't like or what you like and what you value, then you are just walking through life randomly. An example that comes to mind is a case study that I just did with my client, who I've been seeing for nearly 6 months, and she's had 12 sessions with me. And when we started, she wanted to work on her confidence. And when she wanted to work on her confidence, she explained her experience to me in this way. So Priya, I wasn't even going to show up today to our session. This is our first session, because you intimidate me. And there are lots of people that I like, but they intimidate me. I am so fearful inside of me that I can't even tell you. I literally shake. But no one can tell that I shake, because I hide it so well. There was an inner terror within her, but she at that time, that was her level of self-awareness. Her knowledge of herself was that other people were intimidating, and that made her inferior. Her idea of herself, her sense of self, was very small. So can you see how people can improve their life by improving their self-awareness? Because it took us 12 sessions, right, to figure out specific goals for her. Not saying that's going to happen with everybody, but that's where she was at. And this is where one-on-one consults and coaching can really go hand in hand before you enter a specific program for yourself. Because when she started, that was the only thing that she wanted to work on, because she said, Supriya, I've bought mindset coaching programs and I haven't succeeded, because what they were saying, you've got to do this, you got to take massive action, this is the way, and I just couldn't make myself do it. She just didn't have that inner power to step or take action on her journey. And that came from a deeper place for her. So that inferiority, that fear, that lack of confidence in herself to take action in the right direction created a lack of desire for specific goals. So at the 12th session, we actually saw how far she had come. She no longer actually is affected by other people's moods, opinions, and she is now specified what she wants to be. So she's identified through this tool that I share in my coaching program called the Wheel of Life. She has identified that she's got 2 major goals that she wants to work on. And one is her finance and one is her career. She said, in my career right now, I'm at a 3 out of 10 because up until now, and she's 37, I've just been going through life without any expectations. I just didn't even know that I was able to set such a goal. Isn't that sad? I mean, also, I was very ecstatic to hear that she was aware of this. She was so aware that she didn't know what she wanted out of herself because obviously she had to make the journey to become confident enough to take that step to ask more from herself. So in our consult, she identified that a 10 out of 10 would be for her to become this travel ambassador. And in her finance, she said, I've got so much debt, Supriya. I am ridiculously unable to do anything that I want because I'm so in debt. So her goal obviously is to become debt free. And she was able to set a date that she would become debt free. Isn't that amazing? It's because of this inquiry work that she did that helped her identify what her goals need to be for now. But 12 weeks ago, she wasn't even close to identifying that there was this problem, that she didn't have direction in her life. So now, this story I wanted to share because it tells you that a little bit of self-knowledge can take you so far in life, because if you're not clear about your goals, then this is your video. Okay, so self-awareness, as I mentioned, is something that I encourage and teach people through my programs and courses, right? It is an essential tool on the journey of being a human. If we don't work on our self-awareness, we will lack the knowledge of exactly what we are capable of doing for ourselves and society at large. So let's look at what self-awareness actually is. In the Eastern system, self is written with a capital S, and that means you're referring to the soul. The soul is a fragment of the oversoul, which is God. So we're really referring to the divinity within us when we're talking about self. Ramana Maharshi says, let what comes come, let what goes go. What remains, see that is who you are. And that is the self, the soul, which is a fragment of a drop of the oversoul, which is the divine, the God, the creative energy. And so self in that sense is actually something you can't really touch. It's always there. It's not something changeable. And it doesn't change. That's what he was sharing. Got to also see that self doesn't just mean soul, because there is this identification with self. Like, you are yourself, I am myself, right? The self can be the physical and the mental. Okay? So when we talk about the ego, we're really talking about whatever we're identified with. Right? Our identification is also the self. Because if you don't identify with something, then your behaviors will not also connect. So in the human behavioral sciences, what the self is the idea of our identification will create behaviors, and that is the self. So the identity that we take, suppose you take the identity of a mother, so your intellect will start to influence the way you see the world, the way you behave in the world, and the way you feel in the world. And similarly, if you identify as a businesswoman, then you would behave that way, feel that way, think that way. And if you identify with a poor person, then you will think that way, feel that way, and see the world that way. And if you identify with a wealthy person, same thing, right? So the sense of self is really important, because the identification process needs to be in alignment to what it is that you're trying to create. However, when we talk about self-awareness in terms of what it is, you need to set aside some time to actually know yourself, which is connected to really helping you create the life that you want to create the results that you want to create, right? So that's the way I teach it. And therefore, there's quite a few steps. However, there are 3 steps that I want to share with you today. Are we ready? So, firstly, let's look at what is the thing that we are trying to be aware of when we are talking about self-awareness in terms of, what's going to help you create the reality or results that you're trying to create in your life. Then you need to also see what is standing in your way. Do you not? So this is why you've also got to become aware of your complete self instead of just an, narrow view of yourself. And so it's important to know in what context you are looking at yourself to become aware of yourself. Because when I talk to my leadership coach friends, they'll talk about self-awareness in order for themselves to manage themselves. Manage themselves in what way? They try to create emotional intelligence. They also try to remain in touch with their feelings so that they don't react, right? So this is the result that they have in mind, and therefore they call it self-awareness. Whereas what I'm going to show you today is really to always stay self-aware so that you can utilize your self-awareness to create some different results in life and deliberately choose to remain self-aware and connected to self whenever you're making decisions. Are we clear? Amazing. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on self-awareness so far. What have you heard so far and what are you learning so far? Because it's really important to know that there is a lot of information on the internet, and when you are tuning into one teacher, they will share with you what they know and how they know it. So similarly for myself, I have followed many teachers to learn about self-awareness, and in my 15-year career, I have learned what I'm sharing with you. And my mentors currently are Remy Pearson, and I've also studied with the Mohans. I've studied with Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. So I have the mix of East and West here to share with you what self-awareness really is in the framework that is taught at Seva Academy. And at Seva Academy, it's really all about transforming what no longer serves you and moving forward, evolving yourself to create results that you want, because without self-awareness, I'm sorry, but you won't move forward. So how we do this is you need to see that you need to have space. You need to have the skill to inquire. You need to get into the habit of journaling or maybe voice recording. You need to practice listening, and you need to also cultivate emotional awareness. So these are 5 steps that I teach, but out of the 5, I want to show you 3 steps today because that's all we have time for. Plus, the rest of it really comes with engaging with me one-on-one or in the group situation. So let's start with creating space. Step 1, create space, because when you don't have the space to be with yourself, then all you're going to get caught up in are your distractions, right? So creating space really means what I had shared with you about the meditation practice, the 5 minutes a day, just sit with yourself. In that space, can you agree that you become so aware of how quickly distracted you get or how quickly you get irritated? So if you don't have that meditation practice, do check out the link above. I've done a 5-minute meditation practice for you to tap into what it is that you need to know for the day ahead. That's all we're looking for, really. Awareness of self. Step number 2 is self-inquiry. Now, self-inquiry means that you must be interested about who you are as an identity. You may identify with a few roles that you play, but in a role, what is it that remains the same? Your values, right? Your values would remain the same no matter what role you play, because as an individual, there is only certain things that you resonate with, and this is important for you, and therefore no matter what identity you take, you will still be aligned to what really matters to you and what keeps you coming back to your center. Can you see yourself being a lawyer and also having the value of charity? It's possible, right? Can you see yourself being a healthy person, so someone that is health conscious and also values eating anything they like or anything? Probably not. You would value eating what is aligned to you. Yeah? Can you see yourself as a healthy person, but also valuing going to bed late and waking up sleep deprived? Not really, right? So if you identify as a healthy person, there are some behaviors, values, and also feelings and thoughts that would be created through that identity. So similarly, if you identify as a great partner to somebody, romantically, business, they're two separate things. You would still have the value of great communication, wouldn't you? You would still need to develop your communication skill to communicate to your partner and your business partner. You would need to do some self-inquiry about yourself as to whatever role I play, what are my values? So get to know your values that will keep you centered no matter where you are. So self-inquiry is really important, and there are several things that you can inquire on, but one of the main ones is values, and this is the work that I share with you at Seva. Now, last one that I want to share with you is step number 3 is journaling. Journaling is like the holy grail of, any self-evolution change that you want to create. Now, I have many clients that are anti-journaling, like they just don't want to write. So what do you do then? You can create voice clips for yourself to actually get it out of you. Journaling is a method of seeing exactly how you think, exactly what's within you without a filter. This brings out so much about what lies beneath the surface, because let's admit it, when we are interacting with others, say, for example, if you were talking to a friend of yours, you naturally start talking in the way they want you to talk, or you naturally, subconsciously know that you have a relationship with this person, and therefore you will act, say, and think in the way that you do in their company. So to not filter yourself, you would use a method of journaling where you can free script, or you can intentionally write down what on a topic, on a situation. And I was just sharing on my holidays with some friends, we're in our 40s, and we were talking about how many journals we had left behind. I recall I did a fire ceremony burning like 20 years of, journals in the fire, just to have a ceremony of completion of those years. So journaling is one such thing that you can keep a record of what you think, or what you're saying, or what you actually don't want to share with anybody else, but you just get it out. It is better out than in, plus it gives you a chance to express yourself exactly the way you are. There are quite a few journaling techniques that I share in my programs, which is appropriate to the people with the specific goals they have. So whichever teacher you go to, in my experience, whichever teacher I've gone to has given me a certain way to journal my thoughts, myself, my day, my topics of inquiry. And that's the way journaling works. Whenever you put pen to paper, you're actually getting your subconscious out onto paper, and it has a very deep effect on your mind. And it also helps you release what does not belong within. Okay, so those are the 3 steps to have self-awareness, because, number 1, creating the space really gives you the break from all the distractions to help you see yourself clearly and really stay in tune with where you're at today, right now. Number 2, self-inquiry is that tool that helps you lean into what really matters to you right now and lean back from whatever that doesn't belong in your reality, that will harm you or that will derail you or misalign you. It's really important that you get clear about that. And step number 3 is the journaling aspect. Raise your hand if you journal. Can you please let me know in the comments section whether you do journal? What do you journal on daily? Do you have a gratitude journal maybe? But sometimes journaling and free journaling is the best method to help you become aware of yourself in an unfiltered way. And that's necessary. Please don't think that it is unhealthy to be writing down all the negative thoughts, because actually it's better out than in. Feel free to sign up to my weekly newsletters that I send out to the community. This is where I share more information about the topic that I share with you on YouTube. We really break it down into actionable steps. So my friend, thank you so much for listening. Please put down in the comments of what you thought about this topic. Self-awareness is one of those tools and skills that you must cultivate if you want to create change and meaningful change in your life. And also, once you become self-aware, you absolutely have a ripple effect on your environment. Think about people that have influenced you on your journey. Think about the qualities they have in the way they carry themselves, in the way they show up in your world, and what you really admire about them. It's not happening by accident. They're actually intentionally showing up in that way because they have the self-knowledge to be able to showing up in the way that really helps them make a positive difference in your life. So I hope this message helped you today. I would love to hear what you thought. Please put it in the comments below. And until next week, have an amazing week ahead. Hope to see you in our internal tribe. Hope to see you at the comments below. And have yourself an amazing week ahead. See you next week.